Welcome to another episode of the Client Experience Architect podcast. I'm your host, Zach Hoskins, and it is my passion to guide you through crafting unique experiences for your clients to help you both maximize the value you bring and create a sales force of ranting, raving fans out there promoting your business. It is my pleasure to bring to you businesses who are crushing it with intentional customer-centric experiences and dive into what that looks like now, what it has looked like over the life of the business, and what it will look like in the future of their business. My goal is that you can snag some valuable insights to implement into your business after listening. Let's dive in. On this episode, I sit down with Jonathan of Merchandise Food. Jonathan's company provides food merchandising and retail advisory for food retailers, restaurants, and hotels. They believe that many retailers lack time, merchandising, and retail expertise to reach their potential. They pinpoint issues in existing sites or future plans and advise your team or implement projects and in-store solutions for you to improve store visuals and profits. I'm excited to share this one with you guys. Listen in on my conversation with Jonathan of Merchandise Food. Hey, Jonathan, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to have you on.
Likewise, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, hey, let's begin by diving a little bit into the context of your business, a little bit of your background, your story, how you've gotten here, what your business is doing, and then what it looks like in the future.
Sure. Well, my company's called Merchandise Food, and I started it because I grew up in the food business. And for us, we actually started selling fresh produce with a neighbor of ours. And it was almost like getting an MBA in a parking lot. We were selling like high quality fresh vegetables in many open air farmers market and became landmark vendors at these places. And through a number of experiences, I realized that the client experience drastically could impact business when everyone else is doing the same things. And we actually saw over 80% sales increases year over year. Or a year over year. And so basically, I just happened to be working for a gentleman at this business. And he was also a PhD and the director of my food marketing and distribution school program that I've graduated from many years ago. And I was just at a young age mentored by this person who had a lot of international experience in the food business. And so from there, I've worked with Wegmans and traded vegetable commodities and worked for one of the largest privately held food manufacturers. And what I realized was that I really had worked in all different aspects, all the different components of the food business. And I had a good, at that point, knowledge set, and we had a decent process to start helping others reach, their potential beyond what they ever thought they might be able to do. And so I started a consultancy. And, just kind of like yours, we have a practice that helps people grow their ability to do what they're already doing. And then we're helping food retailers with their food merchandising efforts and their retail strategy, and a lot of surrounding stakeholders as well, like architects or designers or investment groups that are operating these spaces. And we do a lot of work with hotels and resorts, independent food retailers, like your local butcher, your bakers, your candlestick makers, those sort of things. So
Sure.
So that's what we're doing now.
Awesome. Well, tell me a little bit about, so let's dive a little bit deeper into your business. Talk to me about what touch points or engagements with your clients are most important in your business.
So because we work with a lot of companies like hotels and resorts and food retailers, there's a lot of specific things that limit them from being successful in their retail spaces. And what our job is to help them pinpoint and find specific hurdles that could be limiting their success. What that practically means is are their displays set up right? Are they in the right location? Is the lighting right? Are people moving through the space properly to optimize their results? Um, and really, what that means is that the touch points we have with our clients are actually helping them affect and impact the touch points with their clients, the customers walking through their retail spaces. So that involves us working on store layouts and product offerings and display techniques and queuing. And we typically do this through assessing their stores or new plans for stores and then providing very specialized, detailed reports um, and real time coaching for them. So most of the interactions that we have with them involve a transfer of information because we don't sell any food or anything like that. So those times that we spend with them are really important. So in those touch points, we found that when we build reports, we do something that many other companies aren't in a position to do because we build very specialized decks and we use very strong visuals because we found people pick up on those things faster and it helps them implement and understand what we're trying to say.
Hmm.
So charts and images and captions, and we'll see a lot of arrows pointing. And if we see a scenario where there's issues with how we think people are forming a line or all the different ways people could be moving about a store, we'll literally map that out for them and spell out in a chart where we think problems could be or opportunities. So we try to make it real simple for them to understand. The other thing we do is in real time consulting is we're spending time coaching small groups, which could have a cross section of people in management and upper leadership. And so we try to present things as clearly and simply as possible. And then we also provide a lot of regular follow ups with that. When we started working, we had a particular process of doing business, and we found by making things more visual and more regular as far as our interactions with clients, um, it helped them implement their results and achieve better success in the end.
Sure. No, that definitely makes sense. So, how do you know who your ideal clients are? Like, the people that you can provide the most value to. How have you determined that?
Well, when I set out, I thought all the major food management companies, like your Sodexos and Marriott's, and all of your grocery stores could use our help. And then I realized they didn't want any help. They're already
Hmm.
pretty good at what they do. So our clients actually really hover around a lot of groups that aren't core. Um, they're not food merchandising or food retailers at heart. So, as an example, clients that we help regularly are the architects, the designers
Hmm.
themselves, who are maybe asked to design or build spaces or lay out spaces, but they may or may not have a retail background at times. Others would involve, capital groups that maybe own hotels or resorts or developers. So some of our clients, at their core, might have revenue coming from a lot of areas other than their food and beverage operations.
Hmm.
And so those groups usually need more retail skill sets and outside advice.
Sure. That's interesting. I'm curious so did you end up going after some of those larger companies like the Marriotts and those types of things, and then it just flopped and it didn't work, and then you had to find a different way, or how did that really manifest that you knew you needed to go after, the architects or the designers or those types of clients?
Well, once we started to gain some inroads in the industry, and I must admit, some of it happened by chance, our first introduction to the business. Um, what a particular group we were working through at the time had a client in the resort industry who was, um, admiring companies like Whole Foods and Wegmans and major grocery retailers and thinking, boy, what if we could present our food that way? And so we did help them, and then that served as the basis of a depth of work um, that we could use as an example of how we've helped others
Sure.
and then honestly um, a lot of our work was completely organic. Our website drives a lot of interest and blogging on the topic of food merchandising. So after that initial experience, most things after that were really people inquiring of us. But that topic of food merchandising and local artisan markets and presentation of food is something on the minds of these leaders. And so they've found us through those organic web searches as well.
Interesting. Okay. So let's say you're working with a client. You're either during the client, during like fulfilling the services, or even after fulfilling the services. How do you get feedback from that client, and then how do you implement that?
Well, honestly, at the moment, most of our feedback comes in the form of referrals or introductions to other folks they know, which has been
That's a
really
good, yeah.
great.
All right.
In some ways, it's been 2 or 3 levels deep where we're someone's referred us and then referred us and like down the line where it's just like incredible actually. And that's
Sure.
just because I think we provide a really unique service that's helping people optimize how they're operating these retail food marketplaces. Um, but I have actually intentionally pursued a few opportunities. I had a few examples. One would be I like connecting with people and just learning from them and asking them questions. So I guess my inquisitive nature has given us some tips on how to improve our business. One was a particular gentleman who ran a hotel management and ownership group, and he's now consulting as well. And when we sat down recently and had breakfast, he shared a lot about the industry with me. And what he also shared with me, which I thought was really nice of him, is that when we had done a recent project for him, I had kept my scope for our project a little higher level. Like we'll suggest what type of equipment,
Hmm.
and give him some general boundaries around it. And what he actually took the time to tell me was that if I had um, offered him even a larger scope and fee to move away from directional ideas and give him very specific equipment of exactly what he should buy for his project,
Mhm.
that he would have been happily paying us more to do that. And I just didn't think we had an opportunity to do that. um,
Wow.
so it was nice, and I regularly will sit down with our clients, and today is an example as well where I have a client who we weren't exactly sure how they would like to receive information from us. Whether they would prefer it as quickly as possible as we were developing and deriving it from others that we're working with, or if they would prefer us to consolidate it and organize it and send it all as one comprehensive package. And honestly, it proved to be a great conversation because I learned a lot, and I understood that getting them information faster was of more value to them. So I learned that by asking them.
Sure. Interesting. Okay. Well, good deal. Definitely a couple of unique ways that you were finding that feedback and then implementing it. So, what do you think is like just across the board to your clients? What do you think is most important when it comes to your clients?
Hmm. Well, in today's world, people are being asked a lot. So company leaders, whether it's a CEO or a food and beverage manager at the site level or a general manager at a store, there's a lot being asked for them. And we're living in a very fast-paced environment with a lot of detailed projects happening, and a lot of things are changing. Particularly in the food business, the way people are eating, the way foods are being delivered, the innovation within food um, is happening quickly. And so I found that one of the most important things is saving our clients time and simplifying their lives. So
Hmm.
if I can deliver consulting services in a way, either advisory to help them mitigate that, or make good decisions on a quick basis, I'm becoming more valuable to my clients. And I'm also finding that it's helping them look good. Our job should be to help our clients look great and have successful projects. And further, if I can present ways to them, information and ideas to them in ways that are easy to understand. We've made mistakes in the past where we've presented too much information, and it's easy to overwhelm clients or paralyze them with the types of decisions they may need to make after working with a consultant. And we've made active steps to simplify that process over the years and
That's
make
awesome.
our reporting and ideas more concise.
That's great. Well, good deal. Well, thanks for giving us some context on that. So let's take a step back away from the business for a second and tell me about a favorite challenge or a failure or an apparent failure that you've faced in your life, and how has that actually set you up for later success?
Well, to be honest, my entire business was based upon a challenge that our family overcame when I left my corporate job, with a major grocery chain, and where I'd been involved in a management program and doing well, but had just felt like I really was someone who wanted to be more entrepreneurial. And a friend of mine approached me for a historical redevelopment project that he was pursuing, which involved a cafe and an inn. And I jumped ship and began working with this group. Later to find only 3 months later that source of funding did not close. And whoa, my wife and I were sitting in a meeting where I needed to start finding something to do pretty quickly. And I didn't have
Sure.
the opportunity to turn around and head back to where I was. And so I quickly began finding clients and projects locally, but that whole scenario prompted our move to the Philadelphia region, in southern New Jersey, and served as the basis, a good breeding grounds to start a business because it's so close to Philadelphia, New York, and Washington D.C. It was a very highly densely populated and foodie type area in a sense, with a lot of businesses who could use some help. And in moving down here, I quickly was able to, and providentially able to connect with the leading specialty food store in Philadelphia, and a major agritourism farm that sold a lot of fresh produce and baked goods, and has a robust marketplace called Johnson's Corner Farms. And so we've been able to help them. And those were the early first few clients I had before we started, snowballing from there.
Hmm. All right. Well, good deal. So do you happen to have a quote or something that someone said that you live your life by or think of often?
Well, that's a good question. For me, it's not as much professional. It is my personal faith. Today's world can be so easily focused on your business and results and finances and the fast paced nature of life. I was thinking about this, and a thought that came to mind was, "Be still and know that I'm God." And and for me, that faith is important in the midst of everything else going on, and intense projects and fast paced deliverables and everything else. It's grounded me. So.
Good stuff. Well, thanks for sharing that. So let's take a step back. Let's go back in time for a little bit. You're sitting across the seat from, your 20-year-old self. What would you tell, your 20-year-old self if you could look back and kind of give some advice or give, some thoughts?
Well, I used to highly admire, visionary thinking and brainstorming, and I still do. But what I realized is that, the greatest brainstormers in the world of all these different ideas, only a few of those things will ever come to be. And one of the greatest um, things that I've learned since then is focusing in on my core strengths. Like, there's a lot of things we could sell as a company or do as a professional, but some of those things are going to be really, in your wheelhouse and things that you really do well. And so I
Mm-hmm.
think merchandise food has been an example of that. Um, Really focusing on this niche area that people are needing help with these days. Um, and I didn't always do that back in those times. I pursued a lot of different business ventures and opportunities, and honestly, a lot of them were a waste of time. And I've learned from them, but I wish I had just focused on my core gifts and abilities.
Sure. That's good stuff. So what's one key takeaway from our conversation or from what you've seen with maybe your clients or some of the clients that they're working with? One key takeaway from our conversation that, for our audience to implement in their business regarding client or customer experience.
I think I alluded to this before, but I think, um, taking some time to consider how your business makes your customers' life easier and
Hmm.
simpler and faster. I want to be able to walk into a space and buy something that gives me time back when I'm running around and working and picking up my children and doing things that are necessary. And I think for us in helping our clients, we tie that to specific elements of their business. So, for example, in a food retailer, the fact that you might offer bottled water could save a client time, or how you present foods in a grab and go format versus having to wait in today's day and age for someone to take some tongs and open up a display case and reach in and grab a pastry when I could have already had
Mm.
it and been through the system. So all of those little details and in the areas that we consult on in retail food spaces really tie back to that, making your customers' lives easier. Having the right product mix in your space makes your customer's life easier because now you're aligning their needs and wants with what you have available for them, from a convenience standpoint. And I think if we apply those principles to whatever business we're in, I think we can be more successful and have more engaged, satisfied customers.
Wow. No, I think that's a good point that you made. I mean, to save your clients time, simplify, and find that way in your business of how you can make your client's life easier. And that point that that made my ears perk up is trying to figure out a way to buy time back or get time back, because everybody talks about time is the only non-renewable resource, and so if you can find a way to help them get that back, I mean, that's huge.
Yeah, and I think even for you or other consultants, there's a element of technology that we can implement. Today I'm using a lot of apps to help schedule meetings. Who really wants to go back and forth 8 times to schedule an appointment with me?
Sure. Makes sense.
And there's so many things along those lines that are helpful. When we submit a contract, do I need to wait to have them ask me for a W-9 and go back and forth 3 times? Or can I send that, and can I send all of my invoices up front so they're available? How can I
Sure.
minimize uh, back and forth and all of those little annoying things we have to deal with on email or whatever? I'm looking to simplify that with our clients and helping our clients simplify it with theirs.
Yeah. No, that's perfect. So are there any Jonathan, are there any exciting projects or new things that you or your company have coming up that our listeners should hear about?
Um, yes. Um, we are working on developing a training program for food merchandising, which will be unveiled in the future here with our training partner, a notable iconic group in the U.S. And we're also working on bringing in some um, very proprietary ideas that don't exist in the United States for approaches to merchandising. From our consulting standpoint, we're working on notable projects in the hospitality industry that are in offering advice that's shaping the direction of how hotels and resorts, for example, will offer food to their customers. Helping build the elements of a lot of hotel brands and what that
Mm.
looks like when you stay overnight in a hotel. Whether it's a focused service hotel that's more smaller rooms and a modern sort of feel, or whether it's a full service hotel. And I can't we're working on confidential projects, but we're really excited about some of the
Sure.
things that you might be seeing in the local hotel or food store near you down the road.
Very good. Well, just in case, or how can our listeners get in contact with you or your company and to keep up with that and so that they can keep an eye out for it?
Sure, thanks. Our website, merchandisefood.com. We're always open to connecting with folks on LinkedIn once we've had a chance to meet. So I always encourage a conversation before we connect socially. Let's just see if there's opportunities to connect and collaborate. And my website's merchandisefood.com, and Jonathan at merchandisefood.com is a good way to reach out.
Very cool. Well, Jonathan, it's clear that you're passionate, about your clients and how they experience your business, and then even providing ways to your clients for their clients to increase that experience. And so it's just cool to see that trickle down effect. And I appreciate you for being on the podcast, and thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having us.
Thank you for listening in on another episode of the CX Architect Podcast. As always, we would love to get your feedback on this episode and other episodes. If you liked it, if you pulled out any nuggets to implement, things like that. If you like this episode and are listening on your phone, take a quick screenshot and post it to Facebook or Instagram. Let me know what you thought, and then use hashtag CXArchitect and tag me in it so I can see your feedback. You can also head over to clientexperiencearchitect.com/podcast to find the show notes and a place to leave some feedback. Please let us know what you'd like to hear more of. And if you like the show and believe others might benefit from it, we'd love it if you share it up and leave a 5-star review on iTunes. Doing that will help more people discover the show. And with that, I appreciate you and thank you for listening. Have an awesome day.